When someone you love dies in war, a flag-covered casket and 21-gun salute honor their sacrifice as family gathers to say goodbye. But how does it feel when you lose someone to war and you don't get that chance because the person you love never comes home? This is the painful reality for the family of Arkansas native Private Robert Walter Hillard.
As our Cassandra Webb shows us, Robert died in the Battle of Tarawa. 1,000 Marines were killed in the three-day battle, Hillard among them. His body left behind as the battle raged on. After that, Private Hillard became one of Arkansas's lost boys.
But his family never forgot him, and that's why we're honoring Robert and other Arkansans who paid the ultimate price and never came home. In the second of our series, The Lost Boys, hear the story of Private Robert Walter Hillard and his mother's fight to bring him home. In the middle of nowhere between Hot Springs and Mena.
Yeah, this is country people.
You find the story of a mother's love bigger than the Ouachita Mountains and a heartache stronger than the Cossatot River.
I think it was difficult for her, and I don't think she talked about it a lot because it was so hard.
Susan Hillard and Ruth Williams are the nieces of Private Robert Walter Hillard.
There isn't really any family left but us.
Their grandmother, Susie Ratliff, was Robert's mom.
And she was just a housewife and had a ton of kids.
When Robert was killed in World War II and his remains never came home,
I'm sure it was devastating. I mean, it would be to me.
Susie Ratliff was broken.
She wanted to know where he was. She wanted to know he was okay. If that makes sense.
The boy from Big Fork, Arkansas was one of 13 children.
Judy, Charlene, Naoma, Phyllis, and Charles.
Robert lived a quiet country life.
They would go to the creek and take a coffee can and catch crawdads and boil them and eat them.
Things were simple. Until the surprise military strike on Pearl Harbor. Just 5 months later, Robert joined the Marines. He was just 18 years old.
He was a kid.
No one could know that just a year later, a telegram would arrive to Big Fork with the worst news. Private Robert Hillard was killed in the Pacific on November 20th, 1943. He was 19 years old. The heartache for Ruth's grandmother, unbearable.
Oh, I wouldn't imagine. No.
At the Battle of Tarawa, about 1,100 U.S. Marines and soldiers died. Some of those remains were recovered and taken to Hawaii. But to this day, more than 400 men from that battle are still unaccounted for, including Private Robert Hillard.
That would be a blow.
While Robert remains lost to history, that wasn't without a decades-long fight to bring him home. As the war was raging overseas, a private war was waged by Robert's mother. Her weapons were a pen and paper. She sent letters upon letters to D.C. demanding answers.
I think she wanted him found. I think that was very important to her.
Her pain, something she bore alone.
I think it was real private to her, too. I think that was a hurt she wanted to keep.
Only time and DNA will track down Robert's remains. Ruth submitted her DNA to the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency when she heard we were doing this story.
I mean, they might call us and tell us 6 months from now.
That DNA waits on a match to remains that sit in rows of boxes in a lab in Hawaii. There's no way of knowing yet if Ruth and Susan's uncle's remains are even there.
I would be thrilled if we could take his bones and put them back
to where they belong. Ruth and Susan's grandmother is buried in this peaceful cemetery just down the road from Ruth's house. Beside Susie's grave, a marker for her son Robert, whose body still hasn't come home, but whose life is remembered by his nieces.
I think it would be nice to know that he's there, and I think she would like that.
There, next to his mama, who loved him bigger than the Ouachitas. If you've lost a loved one whose remains still haven't come home from war, we would love to hear from you and share your story. You can find out how to contact us by finding Robert's story on our website, KARK.com.
A beautiful story there. Cassandra Webb for us tonight. Cassandra, thanks.